Okay, this video's gonna get morbid quite quickly. Death is inescapable. You and I will both die someday. We will become dust and cease to be. Yeah, well, you can say that. We live in other people's memories, but in my view, there's not really living. And I mean, unless you become worldwide famous, that memory is only lasting like 1 or 2 generations, and after that, by your definition, you'll truly be dead, physically and in thoughts and prayers. So with this video, I don't want to be too cynical, but I guess let's talk about life. Not really the meaning of life, but just life. You see, everyone is gonna die, but not many truly live. And something I just listened to, or not just listened, but like something I listened to today on the Modern Wisdom podcast, I guess, really put life into perspective. And what was it? There was an example used. Say you are 30 years old and you live in a Western country. Okay. Average life expectancy is like 90 or so. And so you subtract the two, so you get the difference. And you still have 60 years of life to be lived. And that's still 2/3 of your life, so that's a long time. But it really isn't that long. Like, if you really think about it, it's all about in semantics and how things are phrased or said. You can say 60 years, and that feels really long. But the example we used in the podcast was, say instead of saying 60 years, say 60 summers. And then you start thinking about how fast summers fly by. And then you can start to truly realize how fast life will swing. And you'll just stand there half asleep. For me, I am currently 18. My birthday's in a couple months. Not in a couple of days from the time of this recording. And I guess I remember my first philosophical encounter with the thought of death. I mean, sure, I had seen some gruesome things, like when I was 13 and I watched a horror anime / cartoon. Had my first nightmares of that, especially of, well, I mean, it was basically people on a roller coaster and people got beheaded. Can't say that was nice or very good for our psyche as a 13-year-old. Anyway, on to the encounter of death. I was in high school, at 15 or 16. I was getting ready for bed, alright, so basically a teenager who isn't going to brush his teeth because he's too cool for that, but mostly because he's lazy and doesn't see downstream what's going to happen. Anyway, so I wrap myself around the thick bed sheets, and then, you know how it is. You have the dreaded memory slider of all the stupid things I did that day or in the past. And after a couple of years, you get used to it, and then you can pretty much learn to just shut it off. And well, that's what I did. So my mind became blank. And during that time, I used to repeat a phrase in order to basically clear my mind and to basically relax in order to get into sleep. And that phrase was eternal darkness. I still say that sometimes because it sounds cool, and it also helps in the past. Anyway, after that, my mind starts to drift again, and well, I just randomly begin to wonder what would happen after death. Well, not a good thing for my psyche. So I dove headfirst into the abyss, and well, my first answer was I would no longer exist. Okay, but like that's pretty obvious. But what does that mean? It would mean that I would no longer get to experience this world, to even see, touch, hear, smell, and taste. I would not get to do that anymore. I would not get to say good morning to mom and dad, to play video games for 8 hours a day, to meet up with friends. All of these would be no more. Everything that I could experience would disappear. And I mean, it's so fundamental to a human experience. It's only when it's only through the lens of death that we can really appreciate them. Like, yes, even for me, like, I don't remember the last time I was explicitly grateful for the ability to see, to hear. I mean, we take it for granted. And unless you lose the sense, then you will most likely be grateful for the senses that you still have. But otherwise, if you don't have something like that, it's very easy to forget and not be grateful. And then when I dove in even further into it, I would not exist would basically mean that I wouldn't even be able to perceive myself not existing because I didn't even exist. And that's confusing. And even now, death still scares me. I'm still afraid of death, even though I can't do anything about it. And this fear is useless. My parents will die, my friends will die, everyone in my life will die, and I will die. I mean, unless we can invent a way for mortalism, but I don't think that's necessarily good, as death gives life value. We can't escape it. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to handle the death of my parents. I truly don't. I hope that I will grow and become strong enough so that when the time comes, I can be the pillar to which others will rest on. I mean, people find comfort in religion, and I hold no quarrels with that. For me, I am not religious, so I don't receive that comfort. But in my eyes, don't tell me to just convert and adapt a religion just because I want comfort from death. Because to me, that's the wrong reason. It's simply a theoretical fix to the fear of death because that's just what it is. And I would question your faith if this was the reason for your faith. I mean, to me, it just means that you would pray or bow down to anything if you ridded yourself of death. Honestly, I don't have a personal solution. I guess only thing close is philosophy, to essentially seek out the meaning to my life and do the best I can with this opportunity. Now, I'm not sure if this will work for the rest of my life. I'm not sure if it'll work for tomorrow, but there's nothing I can do in the face of death. I mean, I can only focus on the here and now, to truly live. And I guess here's the punchline for this video. Live a life worthy of death. What does that mean? Live a meaningful and important life so that you have the luxury of death. Natural death should be when you have accomplished what you have wanted and are satisfied with living. Then you can rest peacefully. Of course, there's an argument that there's never enough work to be done, but the world is too fast. There are only a very small number of people who can affect the whole world. But what you can control is your circle of influence into affecting in a positive manner.